Welcome back. I'm Rajshri. Introduction to Business Communication. Information flow in organization. Smooth flow of information in organization helps organizations respond rapidly to changing markets, increase efficiency and productivity, build employee morale, serve the public, and take full advantage of the ideas of today's knowledge workers. One has to understand the flow of information is key. There are two channels of information flow in an organization. The first one is formal channel of communication. It goes through hierarchy, it goes through steps, it has a process, it has a procedure. Informal channel of communication, it is nothing but something that crosses the hierarchy, that does not have a proper structure. It may not follow policies and procedures. Let's understand what is formal channel of communication. Information about policies and procedures originate from the executives and flow through formal channels in three directions. Let's look at the first one. It's downward flow. As the word says, the information comes from the higher level to a lower level of authority. Now, one has to understand what kind of communication can that entail. It is nothing but talking about production strategies, talking about mission and strategy of an organization, not to overlook the vision of the organization. These are the kind of information that flows from a higher authority level to a lower authority level in an organization. The second one is upward flow of formal communication. These are nothing but when the workers report to their higher managerial level employees. We are talking about project updates. Have they met their targets or not? How good are they doing for the month? How bad are they doing for, comparing their quarter review? They're talking about budget estimates. We're talking about grievances and complaints. The third one is nothing but horizontal flow of, formal information. These are nothing but, the communication that involves people of the same level. You're talking about conflicts in between two teams. We're talking about information passing from one team to another. We're talking about data sharing. Let's move ahead. The next one is, what is informal channel of communication? Informal, as the word says, it is nothing but a casual communication between people or, the entities in an organization. You're looking at the communication to be unofficial. You're looking at a communication to be driven by social relationship. You're looking at, conversations or, interactions that happens outside the hierarchy. One has to understand informal communication may be of various types. Let's look at some of them. Single standard communication. It is nothing but one person gives an information to another person, and that person is going to communicate the information to another person. That is the way the informal communication flows. The second one, you can take it as gossip or grapevine. It is nothing but a casual communication that happens, across teams, or a casual conversation happens in those cafeterias, happen in those hallways. The next one is probability. It is nothing but, each individual randomly selects people and disseminates information. It can be on a manager. It can be on the process. The last but not least is the cluster. Cluster is nothing but where a networking of people are going to pass information to and fro. Okay, and it is going to be in an informal level. Now, let's understand what are the advantages of informal channel of communication. First one, supplementary for the formal channel of communication. It works when and where the formal channel cannot. For example, improving the morale of the employee. You can use informal channel to improve, the morale of the employee, bypassing the hierarchy. The next one, it's speedy and less expensive. As you know, the word of mouth, it is cheaper and it is less expensive and it is faster. It is an ineffective, or it is an effective way of passing employee complaints to the top management. One has to understand, the reason the skip meetings are there, or VOC, voice of customer, or these concepts in the organization, it's nothing but to make sure that the information from the employees are reaching out to the top management. It helps in building motivation and boost employee morale. It's nothing but how a manager would catch up with an employee down the hall. It might be an interaction outside the four cubicle, or outside the wall of their office, but those interactions end up having better motivation. Last but not least, promotion of good management relations between the upper and lower level staff. Always understand, the best of conversations happen when you meet informally with the team. So these are the informal channels of communication and their advantages. Now let's look at the downside of the informal channel of communication. Much of the information communication revolves under unproductive and unrelated and sometimes false matters. This is very relevant because it is not coming through a channel. It is coming through a word of mouth, and there is a distortion in the way people perceive. So a person A can give a content to person B, but person B's judgment will contort or would change the concept of the message that is passed on by person A. So there is a problem of unproductivity that creeps in the whole process. The next is wastage of time. Of those banters in those cafeteria, those banters in the hallway, most of the times are unproductive. Third, lacks legality and authenticity. When you're talking about organization and organizational specific information, it is bounded by legal and authenticity. You have to understand that all these conversations that happens informally are not bound by these. Last but not the least, might result in hostility. Always understand, informal communication beyond a point leads to hostility in between teams, in between people, in between different hierarchical positions. Thank you.